Welcome to the show, 5 Sharp Fam. I'm AJ, and this is Marc. And wherever it is you get your pods, subscribe, share, and leave us a good rating.
This segment is sponsored by Thinking Man Tavern, a cozy Decatur neighborhood pub. Grab a tasty beverage from a wide variety of selections and a plate of something delicious from the menu. To go, check out Thinking Man Tavern.
So welcome to another 5 Stripe Weekly, and this is the off-season edition, unfortunately. We have been bounced out of the playoffs, but there are still news, and especially it's going to be silly season, and it's already silly season, and we will get to that in a few. But first up, Miles Robinson, he has been named to the 2021 Best 11 in MLS, and richly deserved. Obviously, if he's making the U.S. men's national team and playing in the tournaments as an MLS player, then I think you're doing something right. But what do you think?
Fully deserved. I don't think they've done the actual position players of the year yet, right? But if there was like a defender of the year award, Miles Robinson would be it for me. I don't know.
He's in the 3 in consideration for it. So we will find out soon. But that will be something to look out for.
But just a great year for him overall, man. I thought he could have a good season. But for him to essentially not only really, he's played for the U.S. before, but it feels like this year he really made his debut, in meaningful matches, Gold Cup, World Cup qualifiers, and he's held down a spot. And he's held down a spot as a fully domestic player, which we don't see as much of anymore because, a lot of the national team is now based overseas. And so I think it's just a testament to how good he's been in MLS, and he's been a rock for Atlanta United. I think it's fair to say he's our most consistent player. I'm just, so happy for him. And again, fully deserved.
Indeed. And moving on from that, speaking of the U.S. men's national team, George Bell and Brooks Lennon make the U.S. men's national team camp and the roster as well. But Robinson isn't joining. He will join in January as he's being rested per Greg Berhalter. So he probably would have made it, but it makes sense as his workload has been pretty significant this season. And Miles is already in Miami vacationing with fellow MLS players, doing some keepy-uppies on the beach. But, low-key, actually, South Beach is my favorite beach on the East Coast. But that's just me. But but anyway, Lennon, he has yet to make the senior team, but congrats to the former RSL player. But what do you think about Brooks Lennon making it? Obviously, George Bello has been in and around the U.S. men's national team all season.
Yeah, because it's one of those where it feels like this camp is it's more so for MLS players. I guess to get a look. It makes sense. Like the national team can't totally ignore the domestic league, even though as we go along, more and more talent will be based in Europe. But I think it's a testament to the fact that he had a solid season in MLS. He's a pretty consistent starter for Atlanta United. And as anybody who watches this podcast knows, I like him. So, I think, again, deserved. And, I don't know if he'll have a career with the team necessarily, but the fact that he's getting a look, I hope he grabs that opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, Lennon does deserve the call-up. I think he has been one of our most consistent players this season. But, the stats... He's got to start racking up some stats, I think, and that's kind of, it's on the attackers to be able to finish, the chances that he creates too, but also, the quality of chances that he creates does need to improve. But
and he'll always be compared to Julian Gressel because he replaced him essentially. And truthfully, I think we've seen enough to say he probably will never be as good a crosser as Julian Gressel. So it's but he can still improve, and I think if he does, his value would rise.
Indeed, indeed. And so on to the end of season roster moves from Atlanta United. Atlanta United have basically released Ben Lundgaard, Mo Adams, Kubo Torres, Josh Bauer, and Alec Kann. That name, of course, sticks out as well. So essentially, both backup keepers have been released, but Kann will probably Carlos Bocanegra has pretty much said that they will bring him back, whether that's on a new contract or something improved will be remain to be seen. But I speculate that it could be something to do with the draft coming up, and in order to keep him or not, it's something that we do want to have the most flexibility throughout, even though he could still be selected, and that's the thing too. But it's a thing where I think we're just trying to play our cards as well as we can. But what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it would make sense for the club to at least try to keep him. I think it also makes sense for him to try to seek more money at this point because, he's come even after being replaced as the starter. The spots that he's come in, generally he looks good. We saw he played for a stretch for the first team this season, and for the most part he was good. Yes, he had one or two mistakes, particularly with the ball at his feet. But it's not to say I expect that from. I mean, look, as far as one thing I've always said, as far as backup keepers go, you could do a lot worse than Alec Kann in MLS. And so, whether he's trying to seek a starting role or maybe just a little more money to stay with his hometown team. I mean, I think it seems like he has at least a little bit of leverage in this case, and he should use it to whatever he wants to do.
Yeah, and there's also that case of Rocco Rios Novo, possibly coming into play here. That's he is kind of touted as the most valuable USL Championship player, and by transfer market. So it is that maybe he's a guy that is Brad Guzan's understudy, although he may be a little bit undersized. I mean, he clearly showed the ability early on in the 2021 season. But moving on from that, the guys who had their options picked up or are still under contract for 2022, they exercised contract options on Mikey Ambrose, Bello, Conway, Alex DeJohn, Franco Escobar, Brooks Lennon, and Amar Sadic. The one that obviously stands out there is Franco Escobar, and he will return from Newell's Old Boys. And the question is, what do we do with a Franco Escobar? I mean, it's one of those. Does Miles Robinson get moved on during the off season? Does a George Bello even? And also there is this case of the end of the loan for Ronald Hernandez. I mean, Franco Escobar could play several roles across that back line, if not start, really. And so, is it something that we want to, I think, explore, or should we continue to move him on another loan? Or, he has drawn some interest within MLS as well. Maybe we get something and fetch something for him too. What do you think?
Well, so I wonder if how much say Pineda has in this move, because Pineda really hasn't seen Escobar, at least hasn't had a chance to coach Escobar. So, there's that to consider. I mean, Escobar was a pretty decent player while he was with Atlanta United. We always talked about his athleticism in particular, his leaping ability, his sprint speed, his ability with the ball too as well. So
yellow cards, but
the yellow cards, right. The passionate, I mean, one of his last highlights with the team is getting sent off in MLS's back tournament. So yes, there's pros and cons, but you look at who they picked up, or at least the exercised. All right, Mikey Ambrose, George Bello, DeJohn, Escobar, Brooks Lennon, that's pretty much all defense. And so I think there is that consideration as well. Is maintaining as many options as they can, especially with the back line, because as you mentioned, like anything can happen with Bello, with Robinson. So yeah, I mean, even with Brooks Lennon, like you have the expansion draft coming up, and they have that to consider as well, that they might lose a player. So yeah, I think it's just I don't think all of these players will survive the offseason, at least with Atlanta United. But I think it's a smart play for now. It's early in the offseason, and it's a weird offseason.
Right, indeed. Especially the season will start earlier than it normally does, or you'll try to. Obviously there are some factors that are out of most people's control, like last season as well. That was the plan last season, but it didn't happen. Right. But yeah, Franco Escobar, with that utility, is a really intriguing option here, especially with his familiarity with the team. Right. But I wonder if the team probably just sees that he could be maybe too expensive to just sit on the bench, and that they could fetch something in this offseason. And maybe it is where if Charlotte does decide they want to basically make a move for one of our players, maybe we just offer him and see what happens, that type of thing. You guys need a right back? I mean, here we go. But give us some GAM, and we'll have some more flexibility. But moving on from that, both Gonzalo Pineda and Carlos Bocanegra, they said they were happy with the players that are currently on the roster and believe in the team's quality. They see a team that's young but with a lot of fight, and they want to add a veteran or two, and that will be intriguing because obviously this is a very young team with not a ton of very veteran players across the roster, but it'll be, I think, very intriguing to see what silly season brings for the Five Stripes. But also,
I will.
Go ahead.
So just real quick, with Pineda being an assistant coach in MLS, I think this is the first time that we'll have a manager in place that has real familiarity with the league. So I am curious to see who he would like to work with, who he thinks can help the team, and ideally somebody who's not on a high salary, because there are some passengers on this team, as we talked about in the last episode, that are on high wages, and so a move or two like that would be good. You think of a Parkhurst coming in and the impact he had on the team, and he was essentially available. So something like that I think is in order for this offseason.
Yeah, and a Jeff Lorenowitz as well, that brought so much to the team and was pretty much a free agent. And so it's that. It's like Jurgen Damm is who you're talking about, and Jurgen Damm is someone that they said they weren't planning on buying out, apparently anyway. Of course, they're not going to publicly say that, but it's just one of those we're gonna probably do what we can to open up some salary cap, and bring in some players that can contribute more from the bench, especially probably in the goals and somewhat assists variety. But yeah. And moving on from that, LA United also announced that Santiago Sosa, he'll be the only player that is apparently going and undergoing sports hernia surgery, or just surgery in general, in the off season. But he went under successful sports hernia surgery this past Tuesday, and he'll be using this off season to recover, and he'll be reassessed in a few weeks to better determine the timeline for his recovery. So we will see how he does. I think we need more depth in midfield, in the defensive midfield department. Obviously Mo Adams has been moved on there, but Franco Ibarra and Amar Sejdic will be options there. But I think maybe we need a little bit more of a athletic destroyer type that maybe could be a guy that is one of those veterans that is brought in. But yeah, and there is that draft coming up very, very soon, and pretty much in about a week or so, and so that maybe in that sense, who gets left off and whatnot. It'll be very, very interesting to see who who is available after the MLS Cup as well. But moving on and to the big news of the week, it dropped on a Friday night. Velez Sarsfield decided to tweet kind of something rogue, it seemed like. Yeah, because on their various social media, they pretty much announced officially that it would be Thiago Almada's last match with the club, and that he would be moving on to Atlanta United for a fee of $16 million, an MLS record now. And, well, that was promptly pretty much reneged by and rebuffed by Atlanta United. And they, on Twitter, were like pretty much saying, yeah, well, we saw the reports. And we saw the reports about Thiago Almada. We have not committed to acquire the player at this time. We can confirm that we retain an exclusive option to permanently transfer the player. The option extends into 2022. We will have no further comment on the player at this time. Very fascinating. We'll unpack that first, I think. I think there's something, and I think you tweeted this out. There's something about Atlanta United and transfer sagas that are just so fascinating. But yeah, what are your thoughts? What do you think is we can pontificate? What's happening here? What do you think?
It's business as usual. I think that's what it is. Like, that's why I tweeted what I tweeted. It's just like, God, every year there's just some drawn out, like, extravagant transfer that we're doing or trying to do, and it's just dominating the headline. And I will say this too, and I mean this like a little facetiously, but honestly, it's the sign that Atlanta United is a big club. Like, winning the off season is not a thing, all right? It's not necessarily like the award that you want. But typically, Atlanta United news, like especially one or two players, dominates the off season in terms of any player linked to MLS one way or another. Like, you think of like the biggest move of the past 5 years, and it's like Vela, Zlatan, Wayne Rooney, and then pretty much Atlanta United players. Like, maybe I'm biased in saying that, but so it's just here we go again. And
and why do you think Atlanta United have rebuffed this? Like, what can you speculate?
I feel like it has to do with some MLS mumbo jumbo. I mean, like, we talk about how this stuff is complicated, so I'm sure there's like some specific, like, maybe salary thing that has to do with the dates, or just staying within compliance and so on, where they can't officially announce them yet. The other thing that I think I saw someone tweet, which actually could be part of it, is it messes with their negotiations if they want to move on Barco. So
yeah, and I don't know if I exactly agree, because it's like Pity Martinez. When he was coming in, Miguel Almiron, I mean, yes, there was already Newcastle that it was one of the worst kept secrets, as like, along with this one, right. As being one of the worst kept secrets. That's, obviously, Pity Martinez, we still were able to, get him at not a price that just kept getting raised and raised. So that is good. And so, I think ultimately, if we have an option, it seems like numbers have more or less been agreed upon for Almada. And, and so in that regard, if it is Barco, if it is, but this is the thing, like the U22 initiative, Thiago Almada, as far as my understanding of it, he would qualify for it. And so, we wouldn't necessarily have to move on Barco.
So
Now will they both fit within the squad? Especially another one in Marcelino Moreno, who they all pretty much occupy the same areas. I am not sure, and so that's where there will have to be some like significant coaching to really, I think, incorporate all these players as well. Although it could be where it's like Almada plays the 10, Marcelino Moreno plays the 8, and then Barco plays left wing or something. But is that getting the best out of them? Not sure. Do we need maybe a little bit more of a proven goal scorer on the wing as well? I mean, Luis Araujo could be that, but are we, are we pretty much unbalancing the squad a little bit too? That's just something that we will have to remain to see if this is the case. But yeah, speaking about Almada and the player profile, I mean, yeah, he's pretty much a football manager player's dream in terms of if you've been playing that computer game, essentially, it's pretty much everyone's go-to player, or even on FIFA as well. I mean, he's one of those kind of wonder kids that's been touted as someone that's people should be keeping an eye on for a long time already. But yeah, he's that lower center of gravity type of attacker from Argentina that you expect. That he's a guy that's got an eye for goal, likes to dribble, likes to shoot, likes to take on players essentially, and is it maybe too similar to the players that we currently have? I mean, we'll see, but he does have a couple more seasons than, say, like a Barco when he did come in. So there definitely is, I think, more experience from him. But I think there's also, from this type of player, should we be bringing in another kind of player that is young and really ultimately is not seasoned like maybe we necessarily need him to be, like, say, Luis Araujo?
Well, that's the thing too. I mean, because you mentioned the MLS initiative, right? And the key part of that initiative is the age of the players. So I think that's part of it, is like you can't really avoid that. And I don't think that MLS teams should necessarily avoid young players anyway. Like, I get that, yeah, we've seen enough evidence that, yeah, it is a difficult adjustment, especially for a young person, to like essentially change countries and then fit in with a new team and a new style and a new league. And but yeah, so I don't know if the age itself is necessarily an issue. But I think the profile player, I mean, like the way you described him, that's more or less the profile of Barco, especially when he first came in. Now, I don't think Barco is as comfortable taking players on, or rather, I think that not taking players on one-on-one. Like, I think, he will hold on to the ball, and then, that when the pass, sometimes the pass is good, sometimes it's too late. It'll be interesting to see how Almada, I guess, settles in, what he becomes most comfortable doing. But yeah, you could have. I mean, like I think that trying to fit Moreno, Barco, and Almada all in the same field is going to be very difficult. And Moreno was really good last year, so it's difficult. It's going to be a challenge.
Yeah, it definitely will be. But he did have 17 goals in 49 starts so far in his career. So, it's not something to shake your stick at. Pretty good return. But it is this, too. He also does not come without his, I think, transgressions. And that's to maybe even say it lightly here. But basically, there's a legal kind of embroilment that Thiago Almada is caught up in currently, and basically, he there is a pretty much a rape charge on him, and Gustavo Rodriguez, a Velez Sarsfield fan and also an Atlanta United fan, pretty much did kind of tweet what some Argentine articles were talking about, that this court case is still active, and that they're still investigating. It involves not only Almada but 3 other Velez Sarsfield players, and that it was a private party in a house, and there were several girls, and Almada and a player named Brazulia, they remain charged as the suspects for sexual abuse, and so there are 2 girls who are the victims, 1 for rape, 2nd for robbery, and basically there's I mean, I'll tweet it in the video description and the podcast descriptions, but it's something that I think every fan should be reading on and seeing and deciding for themselves how they feel about this, because it's an open case, and it's something that's innocent until proven guilty, right? But it's that people are gonna come up with their own opinion of what this situation is, and that's what it's gonna be. But that also leads me to what I think might be why LA United have not made it official either, in that sense, not only because of roster things, but because of this case. There might be kind of a wait and see to see how this plays out, and to see if they actually do want to pull the trigger on that option. But we will see. But if you want to speak on that, you can. If you we want to move on, we can do that as well, because this is a very touchy subject. So I totally understand either way.
And so I just want to add in one thing as well. The victim's lawyer is they're waiting on a DNA test to return, and apparently that's a big part of the case, at least according to the victim's lawyer. And so that's it's something that I'm sensitive about. It's the athletes, mostly men, who are accused of sexual assault and rape, and we see time and again where, not even with celebrities, but just high-profile assault cases, where the legal system essentially fails women. And so that that right away is a huge caveat, in terms of, okay, well, he hasn't been charged yet, or I guess even innocent until proven guilty. It's but I think also an examination of evidence. At least that's part of my thinking.
Yeah.
And I've looked it up. I've looked it up before. I looked it up again this week, and there's nothing suggesting that this case has been resolved. And that's the big thing. It's this has been going on a long time. There are cases where there are accusations and then it's quickly resolved, right? And it's again, you don't want to speculate too much, but sure, okay, maybe there are times where that wasn't the case. But we know that there are more than likely times where men have gotten away with it, and so that's it's heavy. I mean, I would prefer that we honestly just went a different route.
And there is that, the players that were involved were suspended earlier in the year, but it's there's this other chestnut, this other thing that also is very, very problematic. That's to say the least. But basically, Thiago Almada, he pulled his eyes as kind of mocking Asian people in the Tokyo Olympics versus Tokyo when he was with Argentina. And I mean, Velez fans apparently do this in Argentina a lot for the context, but it doesn't make it okay. I mean, it's something that's highly, highly offensive, and as an Asian man, I will not accept it. It's something that, if someone did that to me and did that to my face, I'd slap the taste out of their mouth. I mean, not to get violent here. Not that I prefer getting violent, but I think doing that, pretty much they're choosing violence. I mean, it's like just kind of something that's it doesn't fly here. It shouldn't fly in any country. But yeah, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, like, in terms of, like, if someone tried you like that, right? It's this is what I say about, like, trying black people with the N-word. Whatever happens, man. So, like, if you want to make that choice to AJ, or, while we're, especially if I'm around, man, I don't know what's gonna happen, so good luck with all that. But no, I mean, it's obvious, it's not okay, and I think I don't really think that, oh well, they do it in this country or this culture as a defense, because we know that racism exists in other countries and other cultures. We know that racism is prevalent in Argentina, and so, like, chances are there are a lot of Velez fans who knowingly or unknowingly participate in racism, and that's just what it is. That's kind of how racism works. I mean, people make similar defense of, like, really problematic and just flat out racist things in this country. So, yeah, I don't think that that's a reason for it to fly. And then there's this too, when Tito came, he did the machine gun celebration one time. A lot of people had a problem with that, and he explained that it was something that he did at a former team of his, but that he wouldn't do it again. And he didn't do it again because he realized that it's just not something that you do. And so I think that has to be made clear to Almada from the jump. It's like, that's not okay. I would also like to see him address that, but if that comes about, I'm not going to necessarily hold my breath for that part of it. But I think it should be established quickly that that's a no.
And that's
yeah.
So, sorry to cut you off, but it's just it's that, like, he would. I think, when he comes in, does need to address that, probably at his press conference, because that is going to be a big, big talking point. And, I mean, it is something that not only, we're addressing here, but one of the supporters groups for Atlanta United, Resurgence, they did tweet out. They said, quote, "We aren't going to dance around this issue. The quote-unquote potential signing of a player who has openly mocked the Asian community and is tied to a sexual assault case clearly shows the player does not express the values held by Atlanta United and its supporters. Hashtag integrity over victory." And it's a little bit of that too for me, is that we need to be, I think, knowing what our core values are as a club here. And, what we're bringing in to the fray, because it is that. This could be possibly why Atlanta United are pausing on, announcing this, because it is that. Like, could this be something that they're trying to wait out and see if that court case does, come about? And then there's also, with this, to see if he can kind of rectify and improve his public image. But speaking on all this, he may be misguided. Amongst the other stuff too, obviously with his other transgressions. But in other countries, the monkey chant or the monkey sounds for black players, say like in Italy, that is highly prevalent too. Does that make it okay? No, absolutely not. And so this is something that needs to be nipped in the bud immediately. And in that case, we I think there needs to be a lot of kind of rectifying from all parties involved in why we're bringing in a player with this type of character.
Yeah, I just two quick points that I'm gonna say on this. One of the things you said, I totally agree with. It has to be addressed at the press conference. The way that gets addressed at press conferences is from media and journalists who have access doing that. Like essentially what I would consider doing their jobs, but really like showing the courage and doing that. And this is something that you and I talked about when Bocanegra was in hot water. You know, he did that powder puff interview with the radio station. You know, I'm just concerned that the coverage of the Almada situation now and going forward, really, because it really does seem like he's going to be an LA United player. I wonder if it'll be critical enough, you know, or if it will be to protect the brand of the team. Because let's be honest, like these you know, even Major League Soccer teams are connected and careful with their media presence, you know, in their local markets, and so they know exactly who to give what information. So there's that. And in terms of the signing, I mean, who's responsible for it? Who's bringing this player in? You know what I mean? Like we know the club is generally, but we also know who's supposed to be doing this specifically. And it's just, I don't know. I mean, like I don't want to keep beating a dead horse in terms of the extension, but this is another decision, right or wrong, that I think has to be part of Bocanegra's legacy. So
yeah. And it's not just Bocanegra; it passes through multiple filters, and so right. You know, it goes all the way to the top. If you
Absolutely.
know, if you're going to spend $16 million, then well, you're going to have to, I think, know what your investment is and know what it will look like optics-wise on behalf of the club. So, you know, definitely something that. Hopefully the club takes into consideration, and if they do bring in this player, yeah, you know, we'll definitely just have to see, you know, what kind of messages are sent. But moving on to, well, I mean, something that's, yeah, there's some playoffs still happening.
Are there?
And that's obviously annoying because we're not, you know, further along in this kind of postseason than we want to be. But yeah, the Philadelphia Union are playing they're playing NYCFC in the Eastern Conference Finals, and Real Salt Lake are playing Portland Timbers in the Western Conference Final. And yeah, I mean, you know, let's get your MLS Cup final prediction.
Yeah. So you know. And yeah, so we found out the Union lost or going to be missing 11 players due to a COVID outbreak. That's really unfortunate. At the same time, it's just so MLS that like the week leading up to essentially a semifinal, this happens. I think I'm still going to stick with the Union, and the argument that I made on the FTC podcast the other day, and I'll make here, is that I just feel like they have a more of an identity. You know, more of a consistent playing style. I think Jim Curtin has done a really good job with the Union Project, if you want to call it that, the last few years. I think I kind of like Jim Curtin and his like sort of Hank Hill persona. You know, just boring enough, but a little bit of edge too. So, but I think in all seriousness, he's a good coach. So. Yeah, I think that he will get the Union to the final, and you know, this RSL thing, I don't understand it, and I don't care. I mean, like 0 shots at 120 minutes. You've got this young keeper who absolutely shithouses every opportunity he gets from day one too. From the beginning of the season, he's been doing that. And you know, I would love nothing more than to see Portland get Portland. Like, how many times did we see Portland just get hot at the end of the season, going into the playoffs, and then make a run from like the 5th seed or the 6th seed or whatever? No, I want to see somebody else do it, and apparently it's going to be RSL.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm completely the opposite here, and basically, yeah, I mean, yeah, Philly, they've just pissed me off too much this year, I think. And, you know, NYCFC, you know, they will also be without Tati Castellanos, but I think ultimately 11 players versus a star striker, I think NYCFC should probably have enough. And it also makes LA United look better in the sense that, yeah, if we win out in the first round, I mean, it's a team that made the MLS Cup final, right? And they were the best in the East. It definitely does kind of absolve just a little bit. Not that we need absolving, but just a little bit makes it look a little bit better. And then, yeah, RSL, that shithousery is just I don't know, man. Like that doesn't look good on the league. Not only for NYCFC as well, if they make the final, and if it's at Yankee Stadium, that really looks bad on the league. I mean,
Oh yeah.
that I don't want to see any like kind of like recaps or like in the future videos of us playing, not us, but like MLS clubs playing in the in the stadium, in a baseball stadium. And it's just like, yeah, bad looks all around. I think if it's that RSL, which Justin Miram love aside, it's just a team that's I think they're on a magical run. I don't need them to win an MLS Cup. Probably Portland, with Diego Valeri, with Sebastian Blanco, with the Chara brothers. I think it's that. It's like they're a team that I think would deserve a win, and of course they have kind of won MLS Cup championships as well, or champion as well. And so it's one of those, like I think NYCFC and Portland Timbers would probably provide more of an entertaining final as well. So I'll go with that. But what do you guys think? Let us know in the comments below. And that's pretty much the episode, except for the question of the day. And the question of the day is, what do you think of the Thiago Almada situation? Let us know in those comments below as well. We're looking forward to what you have to say on not only that topic, but all the topics that we touched on throughout this episode. But guys, that is the show. Remember to like, share, comment, subscribe. And for Mark, I'm AJ. Thank you so much for watching.